So, let me get a couple of things straight. Our little village was the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and I could count the amount of houses on two hands. We were a really quiet and close-knit community. Nothing ever happened here. Proper out-in-the-sticks stuff. One night a few years ago, my mom and my stepdad had gone out to this concert and left me in charge of my little brother and the dog. I wasn't very old, only about 14, and I felt really proud that my parents had trusted me enough to do that. I thought I was a pretty cool big brother, and I thought we would be doing cool babysitting stuff like staying up late, eating pizza, and so. I'm kind of glad we did, because I don't know what would have happened if we didn't. At about 10:30, the power cut out. I didn't think anything of it, because the weather hadn't been great lately, and I figured that I had to do something with it. I got some candles out of the cupboard and I lit them, and put some of our favorite songs on. As soon as I sat back down, Sonny, my little brother, turned to me and, being the weird little kid that he was, told me very calmly that someone was outside. I was a little perturbed by him, but the dog hadn't done anything, so I presumed it was just the neighbors or something. He just shrugged it off and went back to his drawings. There's a running joke in our house that you don't need a clock with the dog around, because he is such a creature of habit that he will consistently get up exactly the same time every night to tell you that it's time to initiate his nightly go-to-bed protocol. It was about 3/4 of an hour after the power went out when my dog decided that now was that time. I told Sonny to go get the dog his biscuit while I let him out to go to the bathroom. Now, our kitchen is an extension to the original house, and so as such has a flat roof that's completely low to the ground compared to the rest of the house, and offers easy access to the bathroom window. As I opened the door so the dog could do his thing, Sonny pushes past me in the doorway and whispers, "I know you're out here, and I'm calling the police." As he turned around with the biggest, proudest smile you have ever seen on his face, there was a very distinct rustling coming from just above the doorway. I don't think I'll ever forget the way Sonny's face dropped when he looked just above my head. I looked up. The man sitting on the roof above me panicked, tried to kick me, and then ran off into the next door's garden, and presumably into the cornfields surrounding our village. I was scared, and Sonny was bawling his eyes out. I ushered him inside as quickly as I could and got a knife from the kitchen. We both went to his room and I told him to try and get some sleep, while I waited for our parents to come back. It was an agonizingly long 4 hours before they did. My stepdad immediately went outside to check to see if everything was alright. I heard them talking about how somebody had smashed the fuse box. Obviously, we called the police, but they didn't come until later that day. They did a search of the immediate premises and found a makeshift bed in a nearby, disused barn, along with pictures of silhouettes of us in the shower through the frosted glass. I think it's pretty safe to say the whole experience definitely shook us up. We moved out as soon as we could, but I still shut the curtains whenever I can, and I see shadows underneath every door that I see. Sonny keeps quiet about it for most of it, but I'm not sure if that's just because his brain has cut it out or what. My family used to live on the far outskirts of a city on the west coast. This city happens to be where I was born but no longer live. The city in question is somewhat notorious for being home to addicts and members of a few street groups. But before this, I foolishly thought that if you were dealing with one of the few landowners in the outskirts, you were pretty safe, and we're not speaking to the type of crazies that filled the town proper. The incident in question started about a month before the big finale, as it were. My stepfather was out of town to deal with a family grievance, and so it was my mother, my two little sisters, and I to start with. Our landlord, who I thought to be a pretty normal person, started to make frequent appearances on the property. Nothing creepy so far, but he kept going into tangents about the bushes that grew on the side of the yard. what species they were, when they would bloom, and how the flowers looked. This went on for a week or so before finally he told us he was looking to sell the land that we had been living on, and that we would need to get started with the process of packing up. Our landlord's visits could continue without my stepdad home. He would say strange things here and there, but it all came to a head one night when he showed up, long before our eviction date. He was wild-eyed, speaking really funny, and it hit me like a rock. This man was very, very high on something. He started screaming at us that all the vehicles needed to be removed from the side of the property by a certain date. And then he wandered off to an empty lot adjacent to the house and started pulling his shirt off while spinning in circles. Needless to say, my family were all freaked out and trying to call Dad to come home before this weirdo went from alarming to dangerous. He was screaming now that he knew my dad had drugs and that we'd better share them with him. My dad was very anti-drug. We looked away for a brief moment to get some things done in the house when we heard his truck leave the property. Thinking that we were done with the landlord for the day, we started to calm down when suddenly up the drive comes the landlord and a few tow trucks. Seeing as my mother was unlicensed, she couldn't comply with the landlord's demand to move the cars or they would be towed immediately. We ended up calling the sheriff while blowing up my dad's phone at the same time. The sheriff arrived to see this man raving at the tow truck drivers to haul everything away and to bill it to my dad. We explained to the sheriff that we had given several days to move the vehicles, but he had showed up with the tow crew that same night. The sheriff managed to calm the landlord down, got him to stop screaming obscenities at us for a moment at least. The landlord left that night, and we assumed he would be back the next day to finish what he had started. We started to turn back to the house when the sheriff stopped my mom and told her in a dead serious voice, "I think he may try to come back and enter the house. If he does, call us. I can't tell you to shoot him, but if he forces his way inside, and you fear for your family, you do what you have to do." This little bit stuck with me since having an officer tell my mom that she was okay to do this if the landlord came back. The rest of the night was uneventful and we made sure to call up family to help us pack quickly the next few days. We managed to get moved out before he could make another appearance, though we had to stay with my uncle for a little while things were prepared in the house that we were supposed to move to. I still worry to this day that I'll run into my former landlord when I visit my old hometown. Hi everyone, so this happened about a year ago and it's still pretty freaky. For context, my friend and I are both 22-year-old females. My friend Anna and I were bored one weekend and decided to go to a popular beach to take some pictures and just mess around. So we took pictures and had a really lovely day. But then on the way back, we were starving, so we decided to stop at McDonald's in the beach town. This town is like really famous and nice. All these celebrities live there and it's beautiful. There's also a super famous restaurant right off the highway on the beach that's known for celebrities and rich people going. This McDonald's was directly across the street from the restaurant. Since so many famous people go to this restaurant and it's on a pretty busy road, most of them have drivers that take them, usually in big black Escalades. The driver would usually hang out at the parking lot of that McDonald's, while their bosses ate across the street. Anna and I didn't know this at the time, and we just wanted a McFlurry. So we go to McDonald's and right when we get out of the car, she starts acting really weird. She triple checks that the car doors are locked, and grabs her fancy camera to bring inside. I ask her what's up and she says that there is a group of guys, the drivers, standing in front of McDonald's smoking and staring at us, and it was giving her the creeps. I'm a pretty chill and trusting person, so I don't think much of it. It's a busy place in a super nice town. I'm not worried. We go in and there are a few other people in there about our age. We get to our food and we sit at the table to eat. One of the drivers comes in and sits a few booths down with his back to the wall, right where he can see us. My back is to him, but Anna gets really creeped out and wants to leave. This guy isn't eating nor anything. He's just staring at us. Again, this is a pretty crowded McDonald's in one of the nicest towns in Southern California, so I feel pretty safe. Living in South Central, you get used to the odd creep. But still, Anna was freaked out, so I agreed to go. I just had to run to the bathroom first. It was one of those McDonald's where the counter and main dining room were in one big room. And then there was sort of a hallway off to the side of the counter with more seating, and the bathroom at the end, way in the back. There was also a door going outside, right next to the bathrooms. The bathroom only had 2 stalls, and I just walked into the first one, not really paying attention to whether or not anyone else was in there. So I'm doing my thing, and then I hear the door open, and I hear Anna call my name. At this point, I'm very confused since she's supposed to be watching her stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, what's up? Are you okay?" "Yeah, just going to the bathroom," I reply. She was like, "Oh, okay," and just stands there in the doorway. After a second, I hear her leave, and I'm thinking, that's very weird. So I walk out of the bathroom and see her waiting by the door with all of our stuff in her hands. I ask her what's going on and why she came in the bathroom. And she just looks at me really panicky and is like, "We need to leave right now." At this point, I'm still not afraid, just confused. We rush out to the car and she starts telling me what happened. It turns out, when I walked into the bathroom, the creepy driver followed me in a little while after. I don't remember hearing him come in, but maybe I did and just assumed someone had either been in the stall next to me and was leaving, or had just come to check their makeup or something. I'll be honest, I really wasn't paying attention. I know for sure I wasn't aware that anyone had entered the stall next to me, because he didn't close the stall door when he came in. She was on her phone, so she didn't see him follow me either. A young guy noticed it and went up to my friend, asking if we knew the driver. Frantic, she told me that we did not and ran to check on me. He was in the stall next to me with the stall door open. It was the large handicap stall, not making a sound. She came in and didn't see him, so she called my name to make sure that I was still alive, and he rushed out of the stall past her. She was in shock, and didn't know what to do other than gather our things and prepare to run. When we went to her car, he was sitting in his big black car with tinted windows next to us, still staring. We sped off, and when I got the story, we called the McDonald's to let them know what happened. They didn't really care. And then we called the non-emergency sheriff line to report it as well, which was closed. Thank you, Malibu, for nothing. Eventually, my mom went full-on mama bear and threatened to blast it all over social media that they didn't take my report seriously. And she got a hold of someone at corporate from there. They checked their cameras and they saw the guy follow me in. A police report was made, so hopefully this never happens to anyone else again. Honestly, thank God nothing happened, but it was really scary. The guy who was sitting in his car staring at us when we left, who knows what he was planning on doing. We moved into a house in the country about 4 months ago. Since we had previously lived in an apartment, that means we needed to buy a lawnmower. Instead of putting out about $200 on a lawnmower, when we would have to move again in a few years, we decided to hire somebody to cut our grass. Initially, we went with the guy that my fiance used to work with, but $65 every 2 weeks starts to add up, and I was looking for something cheaper. And that brings me to Charles. Charles posted in my Facebook classified that he was looking for some lawns to cut this weekend, and that he had a reputable company. So I sent him a message. Initially, Charles came off as nice. He asked me for my address so he could stop by and give me an estimate. After stopping by my house, he sent me a message saying, "Dang, sweetheart, you got a big porch." Made me kind of uncomfortable, but figured I was overreacting and started planning when he could come out. I told him my off days and he assured me that I didn't have to be home. I told him to come Wednesday. Wednesday morning he messaged me, "Are you home?" I said no. 3 hours later, "Are you home yet?" I told him, "No, I won't be until after 8. Charles then informed me that his tire had a flat and he would come tomorrow. Thursday. The first thing in the morning he messaged me, "Will you be home today?" I told him no. He messaged me back a few hours later, "Hey, are you home?" I said no, I told you that I wouldn't be home all day, are you still coming out? He then told me that his truck broke down, and he was sending messages like, "Please don't be upset with me, sweetheart." At this point, I was getting really creeped out and I told him to just come tomorrow. Friday. It was actually my day off, but I woke up and left the house for the day. He messages me, "Hey, I'm coming, you're off today, right?" I said yeah, but I'm not home. "Well, when will you be home?" "I don't know." He messaged me later saying, "Sorry babes, I was loading equipment onto my truck and it fell and broke. Maybe I can come tomorrow." At this point, I was really creeped out and told him, "Never mind, I'm gonna find somebody else." Saturday. I get off work around 4 or 5 and check my phone and find multiple messages from him saying that he had to cut my grass and I need to come home and give him the money. I told him no, that I'll cash app it to you. He started getting really irate and saying that I need to give him the money now. I told him that I would give him the money after I got home and thought the grass was cut. I was honestly really worried that he would be waiting at my house, so I got a friend to drive home behind me. He wasn't there. I sent him the money and thought that that was the end of it. Fast forward to 2 months later, I'm on the phone with my fiance as I drive to class and he tells me that he has to get off the phone because there's somebody walking down our driveway. I asked what he meant, and he said there was a man walking around in our driveway in the front yard. After I got to class, he texted me telling me that it was just a man who had come by to promote his lawn care business. I didn't think anything about it because it had been 2 months at this point. But later that night I got home and saw a business card land on my counter with the name of the man who had been messaging me earlier. I called my fiance, Mike, at work and asked how the guy had been acting. He said Charles seemed genuinely surprised that a man had come out and asked if he lived alone. I asked Mike if the man had stopped at any other houses and he replied, "Now that I think of it, no." After we left our house, he just left. Mike said that he had seemed really desperate to help around the house and offered to cut the lawn and fix our porch, remove any trash or scrap metal that we had around the house, and then asked if we had any pests such as bats in our attic or anything. That really freaked me out because we do have a bat problem and I had previously posted about it on Facebook. Mike then said what was really weird is Charles was very freaked out about the dog. He heard Max barking from inside and started asking a lot of questions like, is he big? Does he stay outside or inside? Does he ever go outside or does he stay inside completely? How big is he? Is he nice? Mike chalked it up to him being just scared of dogs. He gave him a brief tour of the outside of the house and then Charles got in his truck and left. I then told Mike that this was the same guy who had been messaging me earlier in that year, and Mike began to freak out. He said that Charles had asked a lot of really specific questions about who all lived here, how long they lived here, and where they were at the time. He said he tried to brush them off, but Charles seemed really insistent to know if Mike was the only one in the house. Before he left, Mike specifically asked him if he had cut the lawn here before, or something, and maybe he was thinking of the last owners. But Charles told him, "No, I just happened to be on my way out this way and thought I would promote my business to the neighborhood." And the worst part, I had taken my fiance's car to work that day, which means my car was in the driveway when Charles stopped by. He thought that I was home alone. I didn't contact the police because I thought that I might be overreacting. This all happened 2 days ago and I hope that I never see him again.